Mark 30. Mark 15. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5.
This is RFD Today, a daily look at the key topics impacting rural Illinois. If you live in Illinois, we examine the issues impacting you, your income, and your community. Here's your host for today's program, Bill Shonky.
Good Wednesday to you, Illinois. Thanks for joining us for this adventure in broadcasting on the 22nd of May, and just looking at different weather reports and pictures on social media. Snow in Wyoming and Colorado and Nebraska, and a foot of rain in Oklahoma and parts of Texas where folks are just completely underwater, and continued planning delays in a very good portion of Illinois, and a forecast that just looks like it's going to rain all darn week, doesn't it? And if it does, I mean, it's one thing to get some sunshine later, but if it just continues to rain, how long will planning delays persist? Will it be way into June? We'll just see how long these things actually persist. Later today, I will be in Kansas City, the spring conference of the U.S. Meat Export Federation, and he has been on the schedule, and even yesterday he was still on the agenda. USDA Undersecretary Ted McKinney is expected to be at the conference tomorrow morning. And yesterday started a big scurry around noon when rumors started flying about mitigation payment talks. Rumors including the idea that they could be announced this week, and certainly provided more questions than answers. What's it based on, and are the payment amounts really what they're rumored to be? So hopefully we'll have some insight into that as the week goes on. If not today, but hopefully as the week goes on. On the program today, State Treasurer Michael Frericks. One of the things we'll talk about is Ag Invest. Another thing is, how has Illinois and the Treasurer's Office been able to bring in more interest income? Not without getting too specific, but certainly a good thing, because every dollar brought in that way is a dollar that doesn't have to come from taxes. Also, Rita will have a piece with folks at CME Group. Bacon is back. A bacon index was unveiled last week. And also, we'll talk agronomy with Reg Stolte and Victoria Klajewski. Are we experiencing conditions now that could lead to soybean diseases later? And what about cover crops? And also, we're already in that 45-day window. Fewer than 45 days to June 30, and the states imposed the CAMA deadline. Stay tuned. All that to come and more on a Wednesday RFD Today.
Hey, Noah, how was school today?
It was really fun. Our class had a field trip to Ethan's family's pig farm.
Did you learn anything interesting?
Yeah, when a pig gets a cold, his dad calls a pig doctor and gives him medicine, just like you give me when I'm sick.
It sounds like you learned a lot from Ethan's dad.
Yep, he told us healthy pigs are happy pigs.
Find out more about Illinois pig farmers at watchusgrow.org. Brought to you by Illinois Farm Bureau, where it's all about farm, family, and food.
From midnight snacks to holiday gatherings, food is a part of our culture that brings us together every day. To make sure we all have food on our tables, Illinois farmers are going beyond planting crops and raising animals. We're making sure the wildlife that helps our food grow has homes too. To learn more about conservation efforts, visit ilfarmersconserve.com. Preserving our water, protecting our land, providing our food.
This message brought to you by Illinois Farm Bureau.
Farm Week and Partners Magazine editor Chris Anderson connects rural routes for you. Chris shares her 4 decades of writing expertise by making sure each edition delivers the best information. Here's a bit about her rural roots.
I was raised on a farm in Champaign County growing corn, soybeans, popcorn, pumpkins, and poultry. My top priority is to inform, educate, and even entertain Farm Bureau members.
Be it routes or roots, RFD Radio, FarmWeekNow.com, and Farm Week keep you connected.
Stoller International has 5 full-service Case IH dealerships located throughout central Illinois. They carry a large selection of both new and used equipment as well as the technology and parts to keep your operation up to speed. Welcome back. Joining us over the phone, we're pleased to have our State Treasurer, Michael Frericks, joining us. Thank you so much for doing this. How are you today?
Ross, I am great. General Assembly is hopefully wrapping up this month, and hopefully a lot of farmers are getting in the field this month. I know there's been a lot of wet fields and a lot of concern out there.
I was by your home area on Saturday, and, some folks still haven't even, it doesn't even look like they've hit square one yet, let alone made a whole lot of progress. So it has been a tough one, hasn't it?
We are definitely behind in planting. I know there's some concerns, but I know as soon as we get a couple of dry days, they're going to be out there full time. All right.
Hopefully those dry days will show themselves soon. We want to talk about Ag Invest for one. And one of the things that I found interesting, I don't think I had put too much together on this, but that is a refi option if available, if I read that right.
Yeah, we know that with this trade war, there are a lot of farmers hurting with reduced commodity prices. They're trying to find some ways for savings out there, and if we can help them refinance their debt, lower some of their costs associated with carrying that money, then we want to be helpful. Because in the Treasurer's Office, we know that the number one industry in the state of Illinois is agriculture. It's a lot of people. It's not just farmers. People have their jobs tied to agriculture in Illinois. And we want to help grow that sector of our economy.
How does that get, I assume people don't call you first. So how does that ball even get rolling?
We partner with financial institutions out there. So if someone is interested in our Ag Invest program, they should reach out to their local lender, their local banker that they have a relationship with, and we can help provide them access to capital to lower their rates. We have great partnerships with banks around the state, but we also try and get out and routinely talk with banks, talk with farm bureaus, and talk with producers out there to see what their needs and concerns are so that our program can adapt and better serve them.
The program, I think about it for corn and soybeans, but, hemp is one of those things that is, there were a lot of people applying for licenses, for example, or people with interest in specialty crops, that sort of thing. So this could be also, I assume, something to help people just get off the ground.
Yeah, I think most people in Illinois think of Ag Invest for corn or soybean production, but we also stand ready to help out for specialty crops, especially as you've seen commodity prices fall. Farmers looking at other ways to generate revenue on their farms. And I've had several conversations with farmers who are interested about making this transition, but they realize that can be capital intensive to convert their farms. We've actually talked with businesses looking to process hemp, looking to be involved in the Ag Invest program. So we're trying to just make sure that industry remains a wealth generator for the state of Illinois, that we're helping farmers to modernize or adapt to changing conditions. And so far, we've had a great response.
If I could ask something out of the blue here, just curious about as you operate as a treasurer and as interest rates continue, looks like they're going to remain fairly steady and relatively low for a while. And at the same time, you're trying to produce as much revenue off of investments for the state as possible. So I could see some good in low interest rates, but I could see for other people that could be a challenge depending on what kind of return you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, you're exactly right. That it's good for our farmers that rates are staying low, good for a lot of businesses that they're staying low. But when you have budget deficits and you're trying to help out by bringing in more interest income, it makes it more difficult. We take this part of our job very seriously because we know that every dollar we can raise in interest is a dollar the governor and General Assembly don't have to raise in taxes. So since I've come into office, we have increased our interest income sixfold.
Oh.
Year before I came in, we brought in $49 million in interest. This year, we're on pace to bring in over $300 million. And that's $300 million that won't have to be cut from our schools or cut from the Department of Ag, or have to be raised in taxes.
Wow, that's fantastic. Hopefully that can continue, but, that kind of growth, it has to be measured as conservative as you need to be as well, I would think.
Yeah, so we're conservative, but we have taken some additional risks which have helped us. Now, rising interest rates have helped us bring in more money, but we also have gone to the General Assembly where I once served and said, hey, there are some conservative asset classes out there that you're not going to lose state money, but we think we could make greater interest rate on. And would you allow us to have access to these vehicles? And they have said yes. We've also taken a much sharper look at our cash flow needs. Because I think before we've had too much invested in overnight funds or basically tucking money under a mattress so that we could be liquid. Well, if we don't need that money tomorrow, everyone knows if you go to the bank, you look at CD rates, the longer you're able to invest, the higher the interest rate. We've been spreading out our weighted average maturity date, investing for longer periods, and that makes us more money.
Our state treasurer, Michael Frericks, and we will continue with him. More to come in just a little bit. Later in the program, we will talk agronomy with Victoria Klajewski and Rhett Stolte. We'll talk about, Victoria is insect and plant disease technical manager. Plenty to talk about there for wheat, already thinking ahead for soybeans if and when they get planted. And also with Rhett, plenty to talk about from a weed standpoint, cover crops and burn downs, and as well as, we're already 45 days into the dicamba window as well, that June 30 statewide cutoff date. So plenty to come here on a Wednesday, RFD today. And then later, Rita will be on with folks at the CME Group. Pork bellies aren't exactly back. We used to get pork belly prices all the time, but bacon is certainly back, and she'll explain that later in the program. Stay with us. This is RFD today.
To social media, Sabrina Berkowitz connects rural routes for you. Sabrina covers a broad range of ag topics, so Farm Bureau members are the first to know about key issues. Here's a bit about her rural roots.
I grew up with a grain and livestock farm in my extended family, and today I really enjoy helping people learn how to use social media to advocate for agriculture.
Be it routes or roots, RFD Radio, FarmWeekNow.com, and Farm Week keep you connected.
Farm, family, food. Those three words best describe Illinois Farm Bureau. Farm. For 100 years, Farm Bureau in Illinois has represented and served the men and women who make Illinois one of the top food-producing states. Family. At the heart of rural Illinois are traditional farm families who work together through Illinois Farm Bureau. And food. Farm Bureau families are proud to grow the healthy food they provide their families and yours. Farm, family, food. The heart of Farm Bureau in Illinois.
You're going to need me.
You're going to need us.
All of us.
You're going to need our technical skills,
our math, our engineering skills.
You're going to need our help with your water, your air, your food.
You're going to need our organizational skills, our problem-solving skills.
You're going to need our determination, our honesty, our compassion.
You're going to need the next generation of leaders to face the challenges the future will bring.
And we promise, we'll be there when you need us.
Today, 4-H is growing the next generation of leaders. Support us at 4h.org.
Look up, look down, look around. Look up, look down, look around. In the trees and on the ground, 'cause the ALB must be found.
If you're hearing this, you should be concerned about the Asian longhorn beetle, an invasive species that's destroying our trees. But you can help. Look for the signs and help stop the beetle.
Look up, look down, look around, look up, look down, look around, in the trees and on the ground, 'cause the ALB must be found.
Some signs of the ALB are dime-sized holes on tree trunks, a sawdust-like material called frass, and the beetle itself, with a long black body and white spots.
Look up, look down, look around, look up, look down, look around, in the trees and on the ground, 'cause the ALB must be found.
Learn all the signs and how to report them at AsianLonghornedBeetle.com. That's AsianLonghornedBeetle.com.
Continuing here on RFD Today, conversation with State Treasurer Michael Frerichs about investing, bringing more money to the state through interest as opposed to taxes. That's nice that you have the freedom then to invest longer given the state's financial situation. So it's nice that you have some patience and are able to do that sort of thing.
Well, in some way, the budget impasse was actually okay for us because when there was no budget and people weren't being paid, people were still paying their taxes. Money was still coming in, and we had money to invest. That's not the way to run a state government without a budget in place, but we try and adapt to whatever happens in the environment and make the best of a bad situation.
Our State Treasurer, Michael Frerichs, joining us over the phone. A couple of things also coming up. I know we've talked about this before, but the Cream of the Crop photo contest is going on.
Oh, yes, we're very excited about this, trying to get more young people out onto the farms. Now, we find that there are young people who grow up on farms, and they have an idea of what they really love about their farm and take pictures of that and send it in. But we also find kids from the city who go out, and hopefully they learn something new. A lot of these kids have ideas, stereotypes about what modern agriculture is. And I've talked to some of these kids, and they said, I had no idea what was going on out there. You see this, when you go out, there are often like gray hairs in farming in Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
We need to encourage that next generation to step up and to take over. And our hope with our Queen of the Crop contest, that kids will go out and take pictures of what modern agriculture means to them. Hopefully, some kids will be inspired and set them on a path or a career in today's farming.
So there are age ranges, but this is not a farm kids contest necessarily then.
No, not at all. No, we want those kids who grow up on the farm to show us, what it means to them, show us what they really love about their family farm. But we also want to encourage kids in the city to get out and see and explore. So we find a lot of kids have an interest in photography that will participate because of the photography contest, but hopefully in the process they learn something. So that's really what's going on here. We have it's meant for kids. There are 3 different age groups. You shouldn't have 18-year-olds competing with 8-year-olds. But I can tell you some of these 8, 9, 10-year-olds, they produce really quality pictures. They're really interesting to look at, and we're happy to display them at the state fair and in our Ag Invest calendar that we give out.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, gosh, the state fair. Who knows? State fair is less than 3 months away. And
yes, it is. We're always excited. We're big fans of the state fair.
Live auction and local elected officials day, Saturday, August 17th. So second Saturday of the state fair in Springfield.
Yeah, we host that. We bring a lot of local elected officials in because the Treasurer's Office is also helping municipalities, towns, and cities earn more money. We think that by pooling their money into our Illinois funds, we have access to asset classes they may not have themselves. We can get them a higher interest rate, a higher rate of return. And the same thing. We know that every dollar they can bring in interest is a dollar they don't have to raise in property taxes.
All right. By the way, being at a conference of your colleagues around the country, hopefully some have good reports, just like what you were talking about, more income being able to be earned by interest as opposed to having to raise taxes to do so. But I would imagine different folks in different parts of the country, some folks up in arms and some people hopefully in a little better footing. But I bet it's just interesting the conversations that you have amongst your colleagues during current fiscal times.
It is. I like this organization. I like to tell people, if you've ever seen a state treasurer's office, you have seen a state treasurer's office. We all have different responsibilities. We all are in charge of investing, but one state is in charge of the lottery. Another state treasurer is in charge of 911 services. Actually, in Indiana, the only state that has that. So you see different concerns they're all dealing with, but it's also a great place to come together and to share ideas. We've set records the last 4 years for unclaimed property returned to people in the state of Illinois. I get a lot of credit for that, but I tell people it happened because I went out to our National Association of State Treasurers, learned from other states, and implemented other innovative ideas so we can get more money back into our communities. Because I know that when we put more money into your listeners' hands and they spend that money at a local business or a local restaurant, it does a lot more good for the Illinois economy than it does sitting in a bank account in Springfield.
Sure. Well, thank you so much. We'll let you get back to conference. We thank you very much for your time. We'll talk to you again next month. Thanks so much.
DeVos, thank you very much. Great to talk to you. Have a great day.
State Treasurer Michael Frerichs. Appreciate having him on the program again as a regular guest now on the show. Now, here are some things that we know, because there has been talk about a new round of trade mitigation program payments. As of yesterday afternoon, USDA spokeswoman said details on the new trade mitigation program will be forthcoming shortly. Also, around that time, USDA spokeswoman says farmers should make planning decisions with current market signals in mind, not on expectations for aid. And also, the spokeswoman says aid to farmers is being designed to avoid skewing planting decisions. So there were rumors, and I don't like to talk about rumors, but rumors can move the market. And in yesterday's case, did move the market. Shortly after some of the rumors were coming out, soybeans were 7 cents higher when that came out, and 5 minutes later they were down 12 cents. So I don't like to talk about rumors, won't get into details about it, but that was going around yesterday, and that's what moved the soybean market lower yesterday. So we'll be following it. Stay tuned, and we'll have updates as they become available. If, in fact, they do become available, that is. Stay tuned. This is
more
RFD
farm
Today.
News and information ahead. Stay tuned for more RFD Today here on the Illinois Farm Bureau Radio Network.
Are you preparing for planting season? We don't mean to be a pest, but here's a few things you need to know before you grow. The Illinois Department of Agriculture now requires special local needs labels, including new restrictions for the use of herbicide dicamba on top of soybeans in Illinois for the 2019 growing season. Did you know these additional restrictions go beyond federally approved labels? Remember, the label is the law. To find out more about these Illinois-specific labels, visit ilfb.org/label-aware.
The Illinois economy runs on our homegrown agricultural products. Our dairy, beef, pork, corn, and soybeans grow the agricultural industry by nearly $20 billion each year. But we don't just grow Illinois, we grow North America. Canada and Mexico account for over $45 billion in U.S. agricultural exports, and they support more than 1 million American jobs. Exports to Canada and Mexico matter to everyone in the agriculture and food industries.
A message from Illinois farmers and their checkoff programs.
Spring is here and things are buzzing. Farmers and pollinators are working together to help feed us. In fact, 1 out of every 3 bites of food we eat exists because of bees, butterflies, birds, bats, and other insects. Pollinators are important to our food system and the ecosystem overall. That's why farmers and those in the agricultural industry are working together to protect pollinators through education, research, and conservation efforts. Visit ilagformonarchs.org to join the buzz. That's ilagformonarchs.org.
Attention, Illinois farmers. You won't want to miss this field day at SIU Carbondale University Farms. It's your chance to hear from industry experts about ongoing research and how it will benefit your farm. Join us on June 26th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. with free lunch included. This is a joint effort of the SIU College of Agricultural Sciences, Illinois Nutrient Research and Education Council, and Illinois Farm Bureau. You must pre-register at illinoisnrec.org and click on upcoming events.
All Ag.
All Illinois.
All Now.
There are a lot of smartphone apps out there, but do they have what's important to us here in Illinois? The Farm Week Now app does, and it's always at your fingertips. All Ag, All Illinois, and 24/7 where and when you need it for free. Go to your app or Play Store on your smartphone, hit search, type in Farm Week Now, that's one word, and download it today. Brought to you by Illinois Farm Bureau, where we're all about farm, family, and food.
Warmer weather means a longer honey-do list. Your county Farm Bureau can help you stay on top of your project list and save you money along the way. A Farm Bureau membership offer includes discounts on equipment and supplies from Grainger, plus free shipping on all standard Grainger products. Browse thousands of items from landscaping equipment to power tools. Anything you need to get the job done, Grainger has it. Not a Farm Bureau member? Call us at 309-557-2689 or visit Illinois Farm Bureau online and join today.
Welcome back. Joining us in studio now, ladies first, Victoria Klasiewski, Insect and Plant Disease Technical Manager for Growmark Agronomy. How are you?
Pretty good, thank you.
Red Stolte, Weed Science Technical Manager for Growmark. Thank you, sir, for coming in.
Thank you.
Now, Victoria, you gave me one today before we turned the microphones on. I mean, we try to do everything right, and especially if we have livestock, and one of the benefits of livestock is hauling manure this time of year, and then you threw out a term called seed corn maggots, as if we don't have enough to contend with this year. What in the world?
Yeah, that's right. So unfortunately, because of the, crazy spring we've had, last week, I was called to a field that, where they were having emergence problems on soybeans. The soybeans had been planted for about 4 weeks, and they had just, started to come out of the ground, and the plants were coming out and just dying down. Pulling out some plants, there were a lot of these maggots on the seed. So you cut the seeds open, and they're right inside the seeds. So we were finding anywhere from maybe 3 to 5 maggots per plant or per seed. And seed corn maggots are an early pest. They usually like very cool, moist conditions. They're attracted to fields that have manure, where manure has been spread, and also freshly tilled grounds for some reason. And so, if you couple that with the cooler conditions we had, the longer time that it's taken to those soybeans that were able to get on the ground earlier in April, just created a perfect host for these seed corn maggots to come in. Yeah. And unfortunately, with a pest like seed corn maggots, there's no rescue treatments available. So if you have very heavy stand losses, the only solution is to replant. But of course, there's a lot of other things that come into play if you're going to decide to replant that field.
Well, it wouldn't be freshly tilled at that point, so hopefully they wouldn't still be as prevalent.
And correct. And because, the maggots we found were towards the end of their cycle. We actually found a lot of them that had pupated already. And then, you usually have another generation, probably June, coming out of the ground. But that later generation, because usually June is warmer conditions, it's not really a threat to the crop. So if they were able to come back and replant a week or two after, I wouldn't be too concerned about it, just because they were towards the end of their damaging period.
This probably isn't your deal necessarily, but I remember months ago we were talking about we talked about this, just about germination for soybeans. I mean, that was a concern months ago of make sure that the bags that you buy, you have a good chance of germination, because you'd hate to go through that this late in the season.
Right. I think in this particular case, we dealt with a lot of issues with diseases last year, and that kind of potentially had an impact on the quality of the germination of that seed that we're using this year, right? But on top of that, I think what happened in this particular field was just that they planted when the ground was too moist and too cold. And I mean, the plants need a certain amount of, heat oxygen, to come out of the ground too. And so, the plants are already stressed because they've been growing in these conditions for weeks. And so, just starting to come out of the ground after all that time there, I don't think that necessarily the germination was affected by the issues we had last year. I think it was mainly of the planting conditions. The soil conditions, the environment, were slowing down that germination of those soybeans.
Rhett, thinking about, especially for soybeans, and, the window's so small now, and some applications require a wait. So we're getting more and more into 100% post kind of territory here, aren't we?
Unfortunately, DeLoss, that question came up quite a bit within the last 2 to 3 weeks, with the spring being so compressed and not a lot of fall fertilizer put down. Ammonia was weak. Had a lot more to do on the front end as the awful spring came about, and weather's not played in the growers' favor. Soybeans were planted, the sprayer didn't get there, whether the sprayer was on other acres or the operator was in a ammonia rig or a dry fertilizer rig. A lot of those soybean pre's didn't get on. Soybeans were in the ground, and we hit that warm spell where it didn't take long for them to come up, and so now that's the thing. Soybean pre wasn't on. What do? We got weeds emerging, and our problematic weed that everybody talks about is water hemp. And I was just in south central Iowa last week, and water hemp is about 1.5 inches tall there. So it's up. Not only is water hemp up, but our giant ragweed, our large seeded broadleaf weeds, giant ragweed, velvet leaf, those are both up. So we got soybeans in the ground, no pre-on, and we got weeds coming up. So once those soybeans do crack and emerge, we lose out on a lot of pre-emerged products. So we go down to just a handful of them, and a lot of it boils down to if they're a dicamba tolerant soybeans. Dicamba is going to be applied early to control what's up, because in the case of a PPO-resistant water hemp population, the flex stars, the reflexes, anything fameciphin containing is likely not going to control it. So, we're going to revert back to a dicamba product, whether that be Extendamax, Fexapan, Ingenia, or, the new one with Syngenta Tavium. We're going to go out with a product like that, and then, we're already in that 45-day window, so having to come back again with dicamba or overlay our residual early to maintain weed-free and a successful weed management program. But certainly, DeLoss, we are running short on time. That we need to be cognizant of those plant-back restrictions, whether it be with our more common products, a 2,4-D or something like that.
Yeah. So. More with Red and Victoria coming up on RFD today.
Farm Week and FarmWeekNow.com journalist Kay Shipman connects rural routes for you. For 3 decades, Kay has delivered important news. She covers everything from legislative issues to the latest in soil and water conservation. Here's a bit about her rural roots.
I love covering so many aspects of agriculture and providing readers with the facts they need to make better decisions. I also get to work with farmers and meet new people along the way.
Be it routes or roots, RFD Radio, FarmWeekNow.com and Farm Week keep you connected.
If you're in the mood for some sprucing up, you're in luck. From big to small or farm to front yard, your Illinois Farm Bureau member discount from John Deere is ready and waiting to help. It's easy to think green when it's the Rewards Loyalty Program with savings on equipment, special parts, and home and workshop products. Whether your tasks involve mowing, planting, or cleaning, you'll be set for whatever your work requires. All you need to do is sign up, have your membership number handy, and go to johndeere.com/Farm Bureau.
Good day. We are looking at your markets with a commodity market update this hour. We are mixed this hour in the corn. Nearby July down 3/4, 393.5. September down 1/4. December corn up 3/4. We're at 411.25. And the March up 1 1/4, 421.25. Nearby July soybeans up 6 1/4, 828.25. August up 6 1/4. November soybeans up 6 1/2, 855 even. Nearby July wheat Chicago this hour we're down 8 1/2 at 470.25. September down 8. December wheat down 7, 491.25. July soybean meal up 270, 298, and August up 280 at 299.70. Soybean oil for July up a dime at 27.24.
Victoria Klajewski at Growmark Agronomy with the thought of wet soils. And we talk about this as concern of early planting. Now we're talking about it in May. I mean, do we have conditions that should make us worry about diseases, especially yield robbers, as we go along later in the year? You know, for fungus and has the weather set us up for things to be concerned about for later?
Right, yes, and I actually wrote an article not that long ago about, you know, those two big pathogens that we deal with on soybeans and corn too, some that are their ideal conditions are these cool, wet, saturated soil conditions. And so in the case of soybeans, talking about pathogens like Pythium and Phytophthora, last year we had some issues with Phytophthora in certain areas because we got a lot of rain. You know, first you planted the crop, it was really dry, and then it got really wet, and so we had issues with both Rhizoctonia and Phytophthora. I think the planting conditions that we've had this year have been ideal for both Pythium and Phytophthora, and, you know, infections. And so walking out the fields after crop emergence, if you're seeing any of these wilting off where the plants are just coming out of the ground and, you know, just dying right there, you know, sending samples out to the lab to find out if that's what we had, just because the conditions have been ideal for it. It's a good thing to keep in mind. Of course, for soybeans, the use of fungicide seed treatments are pretty prevalent. But when we've had early planting, and like in the case I was talking about with seed corn maggot, you've had that crop in the ground for over 4 weeks. When you know a residual of a fungicide seed treatment, it usually start to wear off at about 3 weeks or so. You know, the fungicide's worn off and you still have those ideal conditions for disease development, then you're probably still going to have issues with pathogens like Phytophthora and Pythium in there.
Wow.
So
got plenty to worry about, let alone what might happen in August.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
One thing with this, where some people have been able to go and some people haven't, and hopefully they'll be able to go at some point soon, Rhett, but that means that, you know, when you plant all at one time, we can get into R1 at about the same time, but that's not going to happen this year. Some folks will be well past R1 by the time other people's beans get there. So we've got a lot to keep in mind this go around.
Certainly, you know, with the new dicamba labels here in 2019, we have you know, the R1 cutoff date up to R1, not through R1 like the previous label stated, or 45 days after planting, whichever comes first. Well, we're in that 45-day window now, so you know, we have 45 days or R1, which comes first, and that's a little scary here to think about. That you know, not a lot of soybeans are planted, and you know, we're getting questions, and it's definitely something to think about. But you know, we're going to remain optimistic that the weather is going to play in our favor and clear up to get a lot of soybeans planted. But it's definitely something to be cognizant of. Know that the label restrictions are there, and be familiar with that label. Plenty of downtime now. Doesn't take too long to just read over that label and have that in the back of your mind whenever you come out to spray those post-emergence applications that contain dicamba.
It's another example of plan B, C, and D, maybe even farther down the alphabet than that.
Yeah, I was just in a sales meeting on Friday, and I had a crop specialist ask me, you know, I got a plan B and a plan C. Is it a bad thing to have a plan D? And I said, absolutely not. I said, with the way the spring shaped up, I said, you know, it's a good thing to have additional options for that grower that, you know, optimizes yield, have a good clean field, and get that crop off to a healthy start. So it's not a bad idea to have additional options in a situation like this where the spring's not gotten off to a pleasant start.
Seeing too many colors in the fields that aren't the nice green emergence colors by any means. I mean, this is awfully late to be seeing so many colors.
Right. We're seeing a lot more yellow in the countryside, whether you're driving down the interstate or 2-lane roads. You see a lot of yellow, a lot of crest leaf groundsel out there. Definitely a winter annual, so it is bolted and produced that yellow flower that you see. Winter annuals are starting to go through the end of their life cycle, so they are going to start senescing here and dying down, which could become even more problematic with already damp soils. We get additional residue on the top. Yeah. We're creating a kind of a mat there that is going to be a little harder to get dried out. So that's why we like to see that early burn down, get those burned down before they get too big and create additional problems later on.
Maybe the black cutworms can eat the flowers. How about that?
Well,
they can eat the annual.
And that's another problem that kind of it's related to insects in this case, because a lot of those pre-emergents weren't applied on time. So if you have these cutworms flying in from the south, they're looking for those green areas. They're looking for those weeds, those broadleaf weeds to lay their eggs and everything. So those fields that were not sprayed, that had a lot of green growing, were ideal sites for them to lay their eggs. And then you're planting corn or something in there. Those are the situations where you're going to be at high risk for potential black cutworm damage. But I know in the state of Illinois, there's only been about 5 counties that have reported significant flights. And so those are the ones that, as soon as we get the crop on the ground, corn is going to be susceptible from emergence to about B5. So those are the fields that we really need to stay on top of with the scouting for cutworms and try to decide if we need to do something.
What time of year do Japanese beetles usually arrive? Because so many were curious about they were so prevalent last year in parts of the state. Yeah, so
the grubs are in the ground right now. I've actually been walking fields where the grubs are just right there, and they're Japanese beetle grubs for sure. We start getting the adults emerging probably mid to late June. We typically think of the 4th of July as the peak in their emergence, but we can see them as early as mid-June or early June, depending on the temperatures and stuff. So probably another 3 weeks away yet from starting to see some of those adults coming out.
Well, we have enough to contend with now. We'll talk about those.
Yes.
next time we see you.
Yeah.
Well, nothing short of things to talk about. I just wish we had better things to talk about, but we'll do it again later. Victoria and Rhett, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Victoria Klajewski, Plant Disease and Insects Technical Manager at Grow Mark Agronomy. Rhett Stolte, Weed Science Technical Manager. Sometimes in the wintertime, we look at each other and say, okay, well, what should we talk about? But, boy, you have a spring like this, and there is certainly no shortage of things to talk about. And it's also telling that we actually recorded that interview on Monday, knowing that the information would hold up well past Wednesday and well past, for that matter. Sometimes you want to get those things on as quickly as possible if the weather changes, but not this year. No shortage of issues, and some of those issues will be timely, unfortunately, for a while still. Stay tuned. Bacon is back, and CME Group. Rita Frazier has more on that next on RFD Today.
Here's your livestock summary on the RFD Radio Network. I'm Rita Frazier. USDA economist Mildred Haley expects pork production to increase 3.5% to 28.3 billion pounds in 2020. The increase comes in response to higher international pork prices caused by pork deficits in China, which are caused by African swine fever. As a result, experts predict higher international pork prices brought on by ASF-driven losses in China. Those higher prices mean farrowings will likely accelerate in late 2019 and on into the following year. Illinois direct hogs yesterday, 50 to a top of $58. In the futures, as we look here on a Wednesday on the lean hog contract for July, we're down a dime at 91.27, and the August live cattle down 55, 107.72. how do people benefit from raising livestock here in Illinois? Rich Giebert, Illinois farmer, president of the Illinois Farm Bureau.
Well, growing up on a livestock farm was always interesting, and I enjoy it more today than I did back then. But it did give me the opportunity to have a good work ethic, learn to get up in the morning. And you know, that was difficult during my senior days at high school and college days. I had a tendency not to go to bed at a respectable hour. But no, it was always enjoyable on the farm and getting up before daybreak and milking the cows and getting the chores done and then go about the rest of the day's business.
Illinois Farm Bureau, along with beef, corn, milk, pork, and soybean associations, make up the Livestock Development Group, supporting the Illinois livestock sector. For more information, check out illinoislivestock.org.
Welcome back to RFD Today. We get a treat. Not only do we get to learn more about bacon being back on the CME, but Fred Seaman, who is Executive Director of Agriculture Research and Product Development for the CME, is in Switzerland as we talk today. How cool is that?
I'm in Switzerland this week working on another project, but I, too, am excited about the Bacon Index and glad to see that people are still interested in it a week after its launch.
So take us back just a little bit. As we used to read and report on the pork belly market, tell us about the history of that particular product going off on the pork belly futures, and now that the CME bringing back bacon.
Yeah, you know, CME had a very successful pork belly contract, and I'm sure most of your listeners know, but, you know, pork belly is what is used to make bacon. And it launched in the 1960s, and it was wildly successful for many years. The market, that was a physically delivered contract, and it delivered frozen bellies. And that market started to evolve away from frozen to a fresh belly market. And as it did, the importance of the futures contract started to decline, and we ended up delisting that contract in 2011. So that was our, you know, the old contract that most people think about was the old CME pork belly contract.
And why bring the bacon index back?
Of all the primal cuts of the hog, it's bacon that it has become the most volatile. And it's also the one cut that does not correlate very well all the time with the hog carcass. And we have a lean hog futures, and it doesn't correlate well with the other cuts. So we felt that there was a need to bring some price transparency into that market, given the the volatility that you see in that cut that has been really driven by consumer taste. So bacon has evolved from a seasonal product with the old BLT season into a product that's demanded year round. It is not a traded contract. It is just an index that we are providing to market participants to provide some additional market transparency. What it is the USDA reports raw prices for fresh pork bellies that are used to make bacon. And what we do is we collect that raw data and create a weighted average price index that we publish on our website.
Gotcha.
So at this moment, there's nothing that's traded. It's just simply an informational piece so that everyone can trace and know what the price of bacon is.
Back to, how this can help, our listeners out there, and given, the popularity, as you said, of the product worldwide.
What's important and what's interesting about it is bacon is now a year-round product. It goes into many different uses, so it's used extensively by the food industry, and we felt like there was a need for additional transparency. There's not a good price reference for bacon, and this is our attempt to create and provide a price reference in the market.
Back to the livestock industry, as you have pointed out, sort of complementing existing risk management tools then for hog and pork industry participants.
That is correct. That's a really good point. We have the lean hog futures contract. We also have a cutout index. That is something that, again, uses USDA raw data, and we create an index for the prime cuts of the hog. That is not traded. It is a service and a reference price like our new CME bacon index. Both of those are available on our website.
Tell us more about that website. How do we find it?
Yes, if your listeners can go and find all kinds of information about the new CME Bacon Index at www.cmegroup.com/bacon index.
Anything else, Fred, as far as a takeaway on this issue for us?
Yeah, it's really, considering that we used to trade a futures contract, very interesting for that. And, it's such a major primal cut of the hog. I hope that, the industry finds great use out of this index.
Because you're there, around the world working for CME and for new products, how did you land in this job? What prepared you for such a cool job?
A little bit of accidental good fortune, I suppose. When I was in graduate school, I worked under major professor. Her name was Candace Call. Some of your listeners may remember her as an old research person. She's not old. Someone that was in the research department at the Board of Trade in the 1980s. I learned and gained a great interest in the exchange and agricultural futures through her. And after I graduated and was working elsewhere, I heard of an open position at the Board of Trade, and that was 16 and a half years ago. I was lucky enough to get the job, and I've been here ever since. And, it's just a really exciting place to be. Agriculture is one of the most important industries, obviously, in the world because we all have to eat. But the ability to produce agricultural products and get those marketed throughout the marketing chain where they can be consumed in a very efficient manner. And part of that efficiency is managing risk.